let's jump into the first part. I can't say that it's the world's most exciting topic, meetings, but actually it's ridiculously important. So I can sort of tell if someone's on the path to success or unsuccess based on the quality of their meetings. So this is a very important cornerstone of your PhD, and it like everything depends on this, right? It's not exciting, but it's ridiculously important, and it's simple, but it's not that easy either. In some cases it is very easy, but in some cases it's not. So ineffective meetings, this is the default, right? This is what we experience by default, I would say, ineffective meetings. And has anybody here had a job in industry before? Okay, so this is going to be even more interesting for people that have industry experience, because at least in my experience, industry meetings are even less effective. The least effective. At least I can't, maybe I take that back. Maybe I've been in very, very ineffective academic meetings too. How many people have been in meetings at all? Everybody's been in meetings, right? Some of you haven't been in meetings yet, it sounds like. Have you ever left a meeting and not know what to do? Yep. You don't really, and you've walked out of the room and thought, I don't know what to take away from that. It doesn't even matter how long the meeting is. In fact, the longer it is, the more likely you don't know what the takeaway is. Has anybody ever arrived at a meeting unprepared? Or not knowing how you should prepare for the meeting? Right? How about, have you ever left a meeting not having a clue about when the next meeting's going to be? Definitely, right? These are all very, very common. And these are the default, I would say. The default. Have you ever been in a meeting and thought, I can't remember what we just talked about at the last meeting? Definitely, right? Or have you ever been in a meeting and thought, haven't we talked about this already? I have many fond memories of all of these experiences, by the way. Have you ever been lost in a meeting? This is like this could be the basis of an episode of The Office, easily. Like the ineffective meetings. How about meetings that run over time? Endlessly, yeah. And that's one of my favorite ones. Sitting in the meeting thinking, I'm sure that we talked about this already. Like, we've already started this conversation, we've already tried to reach a conclusion, and now we're just going in circles. Those are some of my favorite memories. So the reason all those things happen is because meetings are, by default, unstructured. There's no structure to the meeting, and there's no plan. There should be a plan. It shouldn't be, what's the opposite of a plan? A mess, exactly. Who said that? A mess, exactly. Say your name for their Olga. How do you pronounce your real name though? Is that your real name? Yeah. It is? You would say that? Olya. Exactly. Olya. Yeah, exactly. So the opposite of structure, in this case, the way I usually think of it is random. In some ways, it's a random communication by default, unstructured and random. So we're just going to introduce a structure for the meetings, and of course it solves all of these problems, right? And maybe some of the students in the room will back me up on this. You kind of have to. So it's called Bob's Minutes of Meeting Protocol, and it's a structure. It's just a structure, and it helps solve all these problems, right? You don't have to forget what we talked about in the last meeting. You don't have to walk away from a meeting having no idea what you're supposed to take away, right? And all these different problems, right? So the Minutes of Meeting Protocol provides a structure. Before there was none, right? It was just random. So time is organized and content is organized. So there are three main parts: the topics that you've discussed, a list of topics discussed. The second part is progress since the last meeting, right? Progress that maybe you made or progress that anybody in your team has made. And a to-do list as the third section. So all the items that you're supposed to do before the next meeting, right? Why is that good? Because it provides continuity between the meetings, right? So you begin every meeting by looking at the protocol notes from the previous meeting. So you don't have a random starting point anymore. The starting point is always the same. It's reviewing the previous minutes of meeting. And hopefully those items on the to-do list get moved to the progress part of the protocol, right? So no more forgetting. That's really great, especially when there's a long gap between the meetings, right? They also aid in progress, which is nice, isn't it? It helps us make progress. If there's a to-do list, there are two implications for the to-do list, two very important implications. Well, three. One is you have some idea of what you're supposed to do, right? But the other two more subtle ones are somebody has to make a decision. Decisions have to be made right there on the spot about what to do. And implicitly, you try to break up the smaller, the big problem, your thesis, into small chunks that can be managed. So the items on the to-do list are really items that are small that can be accomplished before the next meeting. So you're taking this massive problem and you're breaking it down into small, manageable chunks. So those are two implications of the to-do lists, two subtle and very important implications. So the protocol looks like this. It has the start, the date, the current date, the start time, each person present at the meeting. This is very good for team meetings because absence is also documented, right? Absence is a very important piece of information when you're working in a team. You have a list of topics that you've discussed. That's at the top. Well, for me, that's usually sort of at the top. A list of progress. So there's an implication there too. The implication is the list of progress is, oh, I'm preparing for the meeting. I need to show somebody, presumably a supervisor, a list of progress. What progress have I actually made since our last meeting? Hopefully you're looking at the to-do list from the last meeting and those items are being moved up, but maybe they're not. Maybe they're not entirely being moved up. Maybe they're just partially being moved up, like I started to do this. But at least you have a list of documented progress. And if you're showing that to your boss or your supervisor, they're going to be very happy about that, right? Very happy. and the to-do list of things to work on before the next meeting, and the date and time of the next meeting. So you don't want to walk away out of a meeting without having a date and time for the next meeting. Has anybody ever tried to arrange a meeting time with email? It's a nightmare, right? You can change, exchange emails, like 5,000 of them, just to arrange a meeting time. That's not a good way. Nobody likes that, right? So it's best to just decide then and there the next meeting time, right? And it's great to have that in a structured protocol. By the way, I follow this protocol every day, and I can't live without it. Like I cannot do anything without this protocol. Like I can't manage any projects, and nothing ever gets done if we don't follow the protocol. That's just an example of one. Dylan might recognize that one. It's just one of our minutes of meeting. So in our meetings, I actually write the notes by hand, and then I give them to a student, typically a postgraduate student. They type them up, and they put them online in a central repository. That's what it looks like. So we know who was there, who wasn't there. If you want, you can put an end time, right? That's actually part of the protocol when the meeting ends. The date and time of next meeting, right? Different things we discussed, random things. I hope I didn't expose anything embarrassing here by accident. The progress that these two outstanding students, by the way, made during since the last meeting. And then the to-do lists with actual names next to the to-do items. There have to be names there. If you're in a team, you can't just put down like the word all, like do this, everyone do this. There have to be names. And then you put them in a collection, right? So that's what a collection in computer science, we put them all on the computer science web server. You might not do that, but you do collect them somewhere in a folder, and then you have a complete history of your project, which is also very nice. Some people, are there any KES students in here? How many KES? 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4? Okay, there should be more actually. We've got some people missing. But KES, and this is not only KES students, but a lot of students in the world, let's say, and people in the world have to write reports, progress reports, and especially the KES people, you have these quarterly reports. So now that solves another problem. Like, what have I been doing the last 3 months? Like, what can I write? I have no idea. Well, now you can just pull out the minutes of meeting from all of you and easily copy and paste into a progress report. So it kills that bird too. And I did sometimes I supervise students for more than one degree. Like Matt Edmonds, I supervised his master's and PhD, and we had this one massive, amazing list of minutes of meeting that was like 5 years. It was so awesome as one continuous list. It's also fun, like, just to look back at the first one 5 years later, the first few, to see, like, wow, what was I doing back then? So some of you might be in the audience. I used my psychic powers, by the way, to make this slide, because I thought, okay, what if there are going to be questions about this? What could be possible questions? So I consulted my collective psyche, and I thought, well, you might be thinking, oh, my supervisor doesn't use this protocol. Am I right? Who was thinking that? Exactly. This is rubbish. My supervisor was like this. So the implication is you still follow the protocol, but you want to solicit the information to fill in the gaps from your supervisor. Right? You want to try to solicit the information. Right? That means ask. Get the information from your supervisor. So if you're taking the notes, I think it's quite easy to just keep track of the list of topics that you discussed. I don't think that's very interesting. And so when you're trying to figure out what to do, a possible thing to say to your supervisor after maybe you've had a discussion for an hour and you're feeling a little bit lost, you solicit the information. You say, okay, I have my to-do list, supervisor. Just to be clear, can I review it with you right now before I go away and see that it's correct? Right? Here's my to-do list before our next meeting. And then before you go away, you say, oh, by the way, has anybody seen Columbo, by the way? Whoever watched Columbo? That's a great... But he always walked out of the room and then he turns around and says, oh, just one more question. I don't know why I'm thinking about that, but before you go away, ask when the next meeting is. Don't get into that situation where you're trying to exchange 50 million emails. You might write an email and then get a reply like a week later. Oh, sorry, I forgot about this. And you can show your supervisor, oh, this is the progress I made since our last meeting, and you have your list there, and it prepares you for the meeting. That's going to make your supervisor very, very happy, by the way. Like, wow, this student's organized. What the heck? Like, that's going to be, for some supervisors, it's going to be very surprising. Going to be very happy. Okay, where can you find the protocol? That was the other question I anticipated from consulting the collective psyche of the universe. Reading your minds correctly, like, is that what people were thinking? Like, where can I find this amazing protocol? You can find it on Blackboard. Is anybody, did everybody get an email? Some of you, I think, maybe didn't, but is everybody enrolled on the Blackboard module for this? If you're not enrolled on the Blackboard module and want to be enrolled on the Blackboard module, well, I'll put all the material. You can put the word Blackboard next to your name if you're not already enrolled. If you got an email saying, oh, come to the seminar, then you're already enrolled. But if you didn't get that email from like that Blackboard announcement, then you can put your student number there, and I can add you to the Blackboard. But you can also just Google Bob Smith's meeting protocol and find it. You don't have to be on the Blackboard to get that material. The future material, you will. And when we do sign you up, there's something called the College of Science Doctoral Training Seminar right here when you've successfully signed up on that. It'll appear in the top right. Okay, any questions? Everybody excited about that next meeting now? Good. We're finished for today then. Thanks. Happy Thursday.